Welcome back. You are tuned in to Traders Nation. I'm pleased to have another original broadcast interview, this time with Allan Cox. He's book author of The Inner CEO, Unleash the Executive Within. Of course, Allan, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
Thank you, Kurt. Good to be here.
Good, good. Listen, what brought you to write The Inner CEO?
Well, I'll tell you, for 30 years I've been working with CEOs and their top teams, helping them to move from good to great.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to me a natural opportunity for me to put some of that down on paper, because I think most of us, I don't know anybody who doesn't want to get ahead on or off the job, and I think most of us get sick of mouthing good intentions.
Sure.
And, you know, we get up in the morning and look in the mirror and we see that nothing has really changed.
Right.
So people are looking for what they've got to offer that's unique and they can give to the world and really enjoy their work. So the book is about finding your own personal authenticity, because that by itself is all the charisma you'll ever need.
Yeah, two things. One, of course, everyone knows you also as best-selling author, Confessions of a Corporate Hunter. You've got a long list of books. This is a nice little follow-through, in addition to the other books that you've written. Would you agree?
Well, I'm very happy to hear you say that.
Yeah.
That's the way I view it, as a follow-through, as sort of it's sort of an end note. I think it may be my last book, but you know, I've said that before.
Right, right.
But I do think this book helps the individual find out their real singularity, how they're like nobody else, and I think that's your value proposition to whether it's your personal life or it's your work life.
Now, back to, you mentioned, and more than once, but you mentioned referring to a CEO, good intentions. Now, really, good intentions mean nothing unless there's follow-through. Would you agree?
No question about that. This book is actually based on the psychology of Alfred Adler. It goes way, way back. He was a colleague of Freud. Freud, Jung, and Adler are the holy trinity of modern psychology. He was the one who coined this expression, don't listen to their words, watch their feet.
Right.
And, you know, good words, well, they sound good, but until somehow we can naturally follow through and spontaneous follow through on what we say, it's not a real belief, you know?
Yeah. All right. To succeed in the top job, people really must attain grounding, a confident and accurate self-awareness. What's the first process of achieving that?
You mean to getting into this kind of singularity or authenticity?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, actually, the first couple chapters of the book help you to do this step by step. But you've got to really... Adler believed that we all live by a goal that we don't even really know about, and it really determines just about everything we do, and we're moving toward that goal, and we don't realize it. So what this book does, and that goal we're moving toward can either be positive, and I call that a guardian presence, or it can be negative, and I call it a looming threat. So what you got to do is you've got to figure out what this goal is you're living by, and then either kick it out or put in a new one.
Yeah.
Or be happy with the one you've got and really turn up the heat.
All right, since we're on the subject of a goal, having a goal is one thing, but having a goal with a plan, it's entirely different, isn't it?
Well, having a goal that is really you and not just these words that you think make you a wannabe.
Yeah.
But it's got to be something that really fits your personality, fits who you are, what you really believe in. And a lot of us just don't take the time to think all that thing through, and then we mouth goals other people put into our heads, and then we try to live up to them, and we can't because it's just not really us.
It's not a match.
Right.
It's like plaid and whatever. It just doesn't match. Okay. Right? I mean, it's like plaid and what polyester. Forget it. It's just not going to go together. You know,
it's a good intention, you know, but that's all it is, you know, and we all know the road, you know what, is paved with good intention.
That's right. Now, you know, every business, whether small or very large corporation, 100 in the world or what have you, there's always change. And the CEO needs to recognize those changes and has to be nimble enough to recognize the change and implement changes within himself. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. I mean, to be nimble is everything, because things are changing so fast.
Yeah.
But, you know, the human being is remarkably facile and nimble if we just give ourselves a chance. But sometimes we're just afraid to go onto new territory, and we stay locked in, and as a result, we get stale.
Yeah, and it's pretty critical for the CEOs, the inner CEO, to have key executives around them to be just as nimble. Would you agree? Absolutely.
They have to be nimble, because I don't care how bright or brilliant a CEO is, any good one will admit, first of all, when they first stepped into the job, it was a much bigger job than they expected, and secondly, they don't have all the answers, and they need people around them that are free-thinking supportive and very direct and honest with them.
Yeah, that was my next question, actually. Is it important the CEO really know everything around them? Or
No, there's no way you can know.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got to have those key executives around him that are in those positions to help him get to the goals he wants to achieve.
That's right, and he has to be willing to be a listener.
Listening is very important. In fact, I think you learn more when you listen, right, versus talking.
No question. What's the old cliche? We got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we need to keep that ratio in mind.
Keep it in check. That's good. I love it. All right, Allan, we're all limited by our imagination. Therefore, are there really any boundaries? And isn't that really where reality comes and meets life?
You mean the boundaries that we...
Our boundaries. Do we have boundaries? And are they...
Well, we have boundaries. We all have boundaries, and often we don't see them, and we walk across them when we shouldn't, and other times we've got them in front of us, and we ought to attack them with vigor, but we go some other way because we're afraid to look at them.
Right.
So I'd really like to mention that people who are really interested in this book ought to go to my site, yourinnerceo.com, and they can just find out what they need. They can do a free download of Chapter 5, which is about boards.
Okay.
So I think they can get something for nothing here. It's a good sample for them.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. What's the website again?
yourinnerceo.com.
All right, yourinnerceo.com. Of course, those watching our video feed, you're seeing an actual site of yourceo.com, interview.com. Now, quickly, Allan, one of the last subjects here, of course, is vision. And it's pretty important that the CEO's got some sort of vision to drive the company. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you do have to have a vision to drive the company, but you've got to really have a full understanding of what the company is, what it stands for, who it is, and be very cognizant of the makeup of the company instead of dreaming up some vision that you could never reach.
Yeah.
So the first step is really have a handle on who we are and where we're headed, and then figure out if we really like that.
Sure.
And if not, we can make some changes, but that has to be done before we can live up to some big horizon.
Right.
That's just wishful thinking.
Has to be reachable, doesn't it?
Yes.
Has to be reachable. Okay, lastly, if there's one thing that really stands out in the CEO, the inner CEO, what would it be?
It's got whoever is in that role has to figure out his singularity. He's not just a CEO. He's a CEO like no other CEO who's existed. He's got to act on his unique strengths.
Yes.
And that's his value proposition. Just to be going through the motions is not an answer, even if you've got the top job.
All right, nice. Give us the website once again, Allan.
yourinnerceo.com.
Yourinnerceo.com. Head on over there today. And, of course, get over to Barnes & Noble or Amazon or your favorite local bookstore, a small business. Get a copy of Allan Cox's book today.
Bless your heart.
Yes, we appreciate your time today, too, Allan, by the way.
Pleasure.
And your expertise. Get on out today. Get a copy of Your Inner CEO, Unleash the Executive Within. And, of course, Allan, we appreciate your time today. Thanks for being on Traders Nation.
Same here. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. All right. Get a copy today. Fantastic book. And again, best-selling author of Confessions of a Corporate Headhunter, which, by the way, was the first one of its kind in that particular field. And it goes on and on and on the list. Allan Cox and his time here today.